What is going on, YouTube? We are back this week with episode 2 of Tech Talk Tuesday. This week we're going to talk about Minus Kili Zone. It's a really powerful card in the meta so far, and as we move forward with the World Martial Arts Tournament boosters coming out and the release of Mutaido and some other powerful counterplay cards that we could see come into play in the meta. So Minus Kili Zone is obviously a zero cost black extra card. It's during your main phase you can send 3 cards from your drop area to your warp. It draws a card and then your opponent cannot activate counterplay skills for the duration of the turn. So this is really powerful. We're going to go over a number of the interactions that this card has, so to highlight why it's powerful and why it's going to see a lot more play moving forward in the meta. And we're going to talk about some of the drawbacks of the card because obviously, well, the card is very powerful. Every card does have some drawbacks, so we're going to talk about the negative aspects of the card as well. So how is this card helpful in the meta? It's a generic answer to counter plays. So currently, the only other answer we have to counter plays is Cold Bloodlust, or not Cold Bloodlust, Battering Laser. Battering Laser obviously requires a yellow energy, and you discard an additional yellow card, which requires you to obviously play a heavier yellow count. You can't just splash like 5 yellow, because you need to have yellow energy, battering, and another yellow. So it's a minimum of 3 yellows you need to see to resolve the 1 battering. So that's right now our only counter to counter plays. Minus Kili Zone, which already has seen some play in past metas and in this meta, we believe is going to see a lot more play going forward as we see Mutaido move into the meta. He's another powerful yellow counterplay along with Cold Bloodlust, which is already seeing a ton of play in the meta in decks like Yellow Broly and BR Broly, and Chilai as well. So this is a generic answer. Any deck can play this really. It just requires you to remove 3 cards from your drop to your warp. So as long as your deck can generate some cards in drop, you're going to be able to play this card. It replaces itself, so that's getting to the second reason we have here. It's 0 energy and it replaces itself, so any deck can play this. And if you have a combo that's supposed to go off with 4 energy, or supposed to go off with 3 energy, or supposed to go off with 5 energy, this isn't delaying that combo or interrupting that combo. Most of the time, there obviously are combos that require cards in drop, but this would just require you to have an additional 2 cards in drop because you warp 3 and draw a card, but this goes to your drop, so you're really losing a 2 card in drop count. So that's the only thing that could really delay or interrupt. But for the most part, it's going to be 0 energy. It's replacing itself, so you're keeping card parity, and you're going to still be able to resolve all those combos without any delay or interruption of a card like Cold Bloodlust, Crusher Ball, Mutaido, Preemptive Strike, any of those other counterplay cards. And then the last reason why this card is super helpful is currently it has no way to be countered or played around. Battering Laser does not stop this card. There's no card that just stops an extra card. So there's no way for your opponent to really play around this card. I guess they could technically play cards that move cards from your drop to your bottom of your deck, but those cards are extremely lackluster in the metagame. They're overall just weak battle cards, and them moving 2 cards a lot of times isn't going to affect you stopping your combo. If your combo is a really powerful combo, you could just combo 2 additional cards before you do it. So there's no real way to play around or counter this card, which makes it extremely powerful in the meta because it almost guarantees that you're going to be able to use your combo without your opponent being able to interrupt it. So some notable interactions we've seen with this card and we will continue to see as it prevents the use of meta-relevant cards like Cold Bloodlust, Crusher Ball, and Mutaido. Those are obviously all yellow cards. Yellow is really prevalent in the meta. It pretty much has been since the game came out. It's an extremely powerful color, and it has all those counterplay cards. It has all the most powerful negates. The counterplay is obviously, like I just said, Cold Bloodlust, the only negate on like summon, and Mutaido coming out in the future, which is an extremely good counterplay, which is pretty much just a better version of Crusher Ball, as Corbin talked about in our first episode of Tech Talk Tuesday. And then it also guarantees resolving powerful play lines like your chain attack Zenos. That's probably the most common you see use of it right now is chain attack Zeno. And then the AOD, you see like players like Russell put it in their AOD deck to just guarantee that that effect's going off that turn. Because if that effect goes off, it's obviously super powerful. You're gonna put yourself really far ahead and have a lot better chance of winning the game. And it has no real cost. It doesn't have a real downside to running in your deck for most decks, obviously. And then HOM and Victory Strike, we don't see that currently because HOM has Deflect, and you can't Bloodlust Victory Strike. So like you can Crusher Ball or Mutaido Victory Strike, but they could Bad Ring those, like obviously at those timings as well. But for HOM, because of the swap timing, when they activate swap, you can Mutaido, and it gets around the deflect because his effect is an auto that's actually triggering. Unless that has been changed, that's how it, to my knowledge, that's how it works. So that they still tap you down and everything, but it's a way to stop HOM from getting those two big swings in or going to Victory Strike. But with the use of Minus Kili Zone, they can't even use any of these cards. So you can just still go in with HOM, Victory Strike. You're going to see with Chain Zeno, AOD, just any really powerful combo that you're going to need to be resolved in a format where there's a lot of interruption. You're going to see this card be played. And then the last thing, it's easy side deck material versus any non-green and yellow matchups, because if they're not playing counterplays, so like blue doesn't have any counterplays, red doesn't have any counterplays, you don't need to see this card in your deck. You can just instantly side it out. So any cards that you want to put in, you have a free card to take out. So if you're maining 2 Minus Kili Zone, when you go to side deck, instantly 2 Minus Kili Zone can come out, and 2 new cards that you want to can come in. So that can help with your colors, along with just being able to side in additional, because a lot of the black side deck cards are black cards. So it allows you to side deck cards very easily versus those matchups. Where normally, traditionally, it's harder to take cards out of your deck and still be able to function the same way. Minus Kili Zone's easy side deck out versus any black leaders any red leaders, any blue leaders, anyone that can't play Preemptive Strike, Cold Bloodlust, anything like that. Like you could still see the use of Crusher Ball and Mutaido if they're splashing yellow. So you may still want to leave it in versus that. But if they're not playing yellow at all, then you can just take it out. The negative aspects of the card. So obviously the card's super powerful. I think it's going to see a ton of play moving forward, but every card has some drawbacks. So one, it's off color and it can create awkward charge phases. So obviously in, I guess, black decks this wouldn't be as prevalent, but in a lot of decks like say Chain Zeno requires you to have at least 2 red if you have other ways to untap energy, but a lot of time 3 red. So you don't want to be able to have to charge a black. So that goes with the last point we had here, punishing to draw multiple copies. If you're drawing multiple copies of the card before you're using one, it's just dead in your hand, especially versus those colors matchups that you don't need it in game 1. So that can be punishing. Yes, you can just use it to draw cards, but that also can affect your warp or your drop area for warp effects. So it's punishing to see multiple copies because it has no combo value. It's an extra card, so you don't want to be flooding your deck with black extra cards that you don't want to see versus certain matchups, and you don't want to draw multiple copies of. So it's not going to be a card that you're going to see people play 4 of. Or I even think 3 is extremely heavy in the main deck. I think like 2 is a solid number, and then if you're playing those matchups, you can easily side in a 3rd copy. If you're playing against a matchup that you don't need it, you can easily side those 2 copies out. So those are the ways to play around the negatives of this card, because it's not good in every matchup, obviously. 3 out of 5 colors, it's essentially useless. You don't want to draw multiple copies because it has no combo value. It's off color, like as stated obviously before. So it's just the card in decks where you need those combos to go off. So any deck like Shenron Gogeta or Gogeta Hero Revived, any Chain Attack deck, any Agent's Destruction deck where you need that combo to go off to win. That's like the core basis of your deck. You're going to see this card be main decked most likely, because if you play versus those yellow and green matchups, which yellow is super, super prevalent in the meta right now. And even like Green Broly BR could play Preemptive Strike. You don't see it in a lot of lists, but they could use it. Chile could use it as well. So there's other things like that where you just need to have your effects resolve, where you're going to see that in the main deck. But as I said earlier, you can easily side deck that out versus the matchups where it's not as good. So those all the really interactions I think you're going to see with Minus Kili Zone in the future. Um, it allows you to create powerful plays without your opponent being able to interact or stop those plays, and it doesn't have a lot of drawbacks. All these negatives are pretty relatively easy to mitigate. If you're only playing 2 copies, you're not going to drawing multiple copies. You'd have to draw your 2 off color. If you draw your 2, yeah, it can be awkward to charge, but usually drawing 1 is the same thing as drawing like a overwhelm card. So it's not too bad. Obviously, if you play 2 Minus Kili Zone and a bunch of overwhelm cards, you can get heavy, but you can just have to balance that out. No combo power, you can take that into account. A lot of decks play extra cards, and a lot of these strategies, since they're playing powerful aggressive strategies, you can cut back on negates. So you can mitigate that no combo value on extra card by playing, say, 1 less negate or something, or less 5Ks, and just playing a more defensive early game, and then going into your powerful combo. So until next week, I'm out. Peace.